Okay, let's start off. Okay, so let's start off. Okay, come. So we learned yesterday about the strategic planning part, right? When you come to the front. So we learned yesterday about basically strategic planning. Yeah. So today, what we are going to learn about is basically the different kind of budgeting concepts. Yeah. So let's let's go through what we are going to be learning kind of today. Okay. So we should be learning about. Give me 1 second, guys. Come. Settle down. Okay, just settle down, guys. So we would be learning today about what budgeting is. Okay, so what are the roles that basically budgeting plays in the overall planning and the performance evaluation process of a particular organization. So that's the first thing. We'll be learning about the interrelationships between economic conditions, industry situation, and the firm's plan and budget. Yeah, we will be identifying the role that basically budgeting plays in formulating short-term objectives, planning, and controlling operations to meet those objectives. Yeah, and we will be demonstrating an understanding of the role that budgeting plays in measuring the performance against the prescribed goals per se. Yeah, and then we would be identifying the characteristics that define a successful budgeting process. So we'll be kind of learning about what the budgeting process is and what would you classify as a successful budgeting process per se. Yeah. Then we would also be learning about how the budgets are being kind of communicated within the organization. Okay, how is the communication kind of the process works. Okay, and we would also be describing what is the concept of a controllable cost within the budget. Okay, and the performance evaluation will explain how the efficient allocation of the organizational resources are planned during the budgeting process. We'll explain about the appropriate time frame for different kind of budgets. There are different there are different types of budgets which are being made within the organization. Each budget is made for a specific time frame. It it follows a particular kind of a process as to what what time frame is the particular budget related to. Yeah, there could be some short term budgets, there could be some medium term budgets, there could be some basically long term budget process per se. Yeah, then we would be identifying who should participate in the budgeting process. Okay, we would be describing the role of the top management in the successful budgeting process. We would be demonstrating the use of cost standards in budgeting. Okay, what are the different types of the cost standards which are used in the current budgeting process. Yeah, and we would be differentiating between what is the different standards of basically the budgeting. Okay, what is the ideal budgeting, what is the standard budgeting, etc. We would be also talking about the standards for both the material and the direct labor per se. Yeah, and we would be also be discussing the importance of the different kind of policies that allow for the budget revisions. See, budgets have to be are made for a particular period and they are made for certain organizational objectives. They need to be revised from time to time. Yeah, And we would explain the role of budgets in monitoring and controlling expenditures to meet the strategic objectives. And we would also be describing a concept called as budgeting slack. Okay, are we clear with this, guys? You guys want to come in the front? There are seats available over there. Okay, okay, that's fine. Operations and performance goals. Okay, so let's first read through this first. Yeah, an organization's strategic plan must be aligned with its budgeting process. So we learned yesterday about what a strategic plan is, right? So an organization's strategic plan must be aligned with its overall budgeting process per se. Yeah. The budget provides a financial landscape of for how an organization can successfully implement its plans for both the short term and the long term objectives. Objectives and goals are critical inputs that go into the building a budget, and actual results are compared with the budget as a means of measuring success towards achieving objectives and goals. Okay, what is the meaning of this, guys? The budgets are being made for achieving certain objectives. You have to be very clear on what objectives you want to achieve in the short term and in the medium term. Budgets are being made for the purpose of achieving those specific objectives. Yeah. Now, just having a budget is not important. The budgets have to be measured. The actual performance of of a particular organizations towards the achievement of the objectives have to be measured against the budget. Okay. So at the end of the day, you will have the budget, and against the budget, the actuals are being actually measured. So a budget can kind of go, so an actual can go above the budget and an actual can go below the budget. All that is kind of measured and then reviewed, and then certain actions are taken on the budget per se. Yeah. So, what is the role of the budget per se? Budgeting is an integral part of the planning and control process. So when you start the planning process for your organization, at the beginning of the process, you would so at the beginning of the process, you would be starting off with uh, uh, sorry, at the beginning of the plan, you would be kind of starting off with what your budget is. Yeah. Now, what is a budget? A budget is a quantitative formal statement of the plans of the organization. What is the meaning of a quantitative statement? You would be measuring, right? That I would be spending X amount of money behind this head. I will be measuring this amount of, I will be spending an X amount of money for this, Y amount of money for this, A amount of money, B amount of money for these particular heads of expenses. That is called as a budget. It is a quantitative statement. Okay. Now, the budget allows for the structure of an organization. A budget is usually prepared only after the completion of a strategic plan and includes the objectives of the organization. Like we learned, first a plan has to be made, guys. Are you very clear on this? First, a plan has to be made. Now, for that plan, how much you will be spending, that is called as a budget. Okay. So, then we talk about the budget variances. Okay, so how would you calculate the variance? You would look at what your actual spend is, and then you would be comparing it against your budget. The difference that you get is called as a budgetary variance. Yeah. So let's read through. It says budget variances and subsequent responses allow the budget to be used as a control. Budget can also be used as a control measure. How? Let's suppose, okay, in your budget you will tell that you will spend, let's say, 50,000 rupees behind a particular expenses. That 50,000 rupees is your higher end. That is your control. Your contract and kind of procurement team or your purchases department cannot go above the 50,000. That is a control measure. Yeah. So a budgeting acts like a control measure per se. Managers and others with a budgetary responsibility are held accountable for their performance relative to the budget via the performance evaluation process. So, how would a purchase manager be kind of evaluated? He will be said, this much is your budget. How much have you purchased? Have you purchased more? Have you purchased less? And he will be evaluated against the budget. His compensation and his other evaluation metrics would all be decided based upon his performance against the budget. Yeah. So budget is a very important thing. It acts like a control measure. It also acts like a performance evaluation tool per se for the organization. Yeah. Are you guys clear till here? Okay. Let's let's look through so as part of the role of the budget, we will also be understanding what are the short-term objectives. Yeah. So short-term objectives are shaped by a strategy, previously achieved results and expected of the desired outcomes. Okay. A master budget documents specific operating performance goals for a period of time, normally 1 year or less. This is something that we learned yesterday also, right? We briefly touched about what a master budget is, right? So a master budget is made for a period less than 1 year. Yeah. And this plan includes an operating budget as well as a financial budget. So now we are learning about two things, an operations budget and a financial budget. What is the meaning of an operations budget, guys? Sorry, loud. Short run budget, yes. But a financial budget talks about how much you would be spending for a particular expenses, right? So the plan includes an operating budget as well as a financial budget that outlines the sources of funds and details plans for the expenditure. Are you guys okay with this sound? Or do you want me to close this?
It's fine, sir. You are comfortable.
Huh?
It is fine with us. You are comfortable.
No, no, that is fine. If the sound is bothering anybody, I can kind of switch it off. Okay? I'm not sure why it is making this sound. Anyways. Okay. Okay, let's come back. Okay, so so a financial budget outlines the sources of funds. It outlines the sources of funds and details plans for the expenditures. Yeah. The the master budget communicates the criteria for the performance over the budget period. Master budget should be consistent with the overall strategic objectives, right? A master budget has to be aligned with the overall strategic objectives of the organization, right? So, what did we learn over here? What is a financial budget? A financial budget outlines the plans, the financial plans, and how much an organization can spend towards a particular expense head. That is called as a financial budget. Okay. Now, budget serves to control operations to meet the short-term objectives. One, it promotes the alignment of individual and organization goals. Okay. What is the meaning of this, guys? Can somebody explain? It is budget serves to control operations to meet the short-term objectives. Effective standards promote goal congruence. What is the meaning of goal congruence? So individuals have got different goals. Yes, to achieve one single goal. Individuals have got their own goals. Organizations have their own goals. What the budgets tend to do is get both the goals together. That's called as a goal congruence. Both the goals will come together. They will be aligned. Yeah. So an organization's goals is also linked to, sorry, an individual goals is also linked to an organization goals. Yeah. That is the importance of budgeting. Okay. Developing incentive compensation plans. Yes. If you are able to meet your budget, you will be rewarded. If you spend less, you will be rewarded. Okay. So that is the performance incentive plan for the purchase manager. We would say that you spend less. There is a budget of 50,000, you cannot go more than that, but you can spend less than that. If you spend less, you will get a certain percentage commission. So that is how the compensation plans or incentive plans are kind of. So that is how a performance plan or an incentive plan is basically worked out for an organization. And then establishing standards based upon the relevant production ranges. Plans and budgets force managers to assume a relevant production range in establishing the standards. Performance outside the range is excluded from the standard because it is unlikely production would occur outside the relevant range. What is the meaning of this, guys? Budgets and plans are made for a production range. You would say that this much is what I would be producing. Let's say I make a budget today to say that I will be manufacturing 1000 units of a home appliance. This is the budget for the 1000 appliances. Now, if now the whole idea is that you have to be within that range, right? Now, if my manufacturing manager is a very efficient guy, he ends up manufacturing 1200 units. It is outside the range, right? I should I incentivize him or should I punish him? Why should I incentivize him? Why should I incentivize him? I told him to manufacture only 1000.
But with the same raw materials, you to manufacture more.
No, of course not. You will need more raw materials. Okay, think about it. Example time. Okay, you have a cook who comes to cook in your house. Okay, your your mother tells the cook that only make 10 chapatis. What if the cook is a very efficient guy? He say, no, no. I was told to manufacture 10 chapatis. I will make 15 chapatis. Okay. Should you incentivize him or should you punish the cook? I should punish the cook, right? Why? Because the person has made five chapatis more. There should be and people should be hungry to eat that five chapatis more, right? That five chapati has utilized resources. It has utilized gas. It has utilized wheat. And it will go to waste. Nobody is going to have that extra five chapatis. So I should penalize him because he has gone outside the budget. My monthly budget stands at 10 chapatis a day. So 30 chapatis, matlab 300 chapatis in a month, the cook should make. Cook is a fully efficient guy. He has actually made more. And because of which excess resources have been consumed. That guy. Yeah. So This is also a way of measuring the performance. So when your performance review will come for the cook, and the cook will come and say, "Sir, hike." You will say, "What hike? You make more chapatis. You make excess stuff. I don't eat also. Why do you want a hike? I will not give you a hike." Okay? Are you guys clear with this? Yeah? Okay. So let's look at it. So what are the three most important things in a budgeting process? Your personal goals are aligned with your organization goals. That is the most important thing. The personal goal of the cook is make take no, no, the personal goal of the cook is to make the make the customer happy, right? Personal goal of the cook is to make the customer happy. Sir ने बोला है, sorry, sir has said only 10 chapatis, or madam has said only 10 chapatis. I will cook more. Madam will be more happy. That is personal goal. But what is your organizational goal? Only make 10 chapatis. So now you have to tell the cook, no, 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 you align your personal goals to match with the organization goals. Okay? Very important thing. That is where budgeting comes into the picture. Okay? Incentivize the cook, or incentivize the purchases manager or the production manager based upon if the budgets are being met. Okay? And third, establishing a standard based upon the relevant production range. Your budgets have to be made for a particular standard. Anything which is outside the standard have not got to be incentivized, they should be penalized. Okay, because it uses additional resources, additional time, and you will be left with an inventory which you cannot sell then basically. Yeah. So it is a working capital impact also, right? So all these while we have learned about the short-term objectives or objectives. So individual objectives, organization objectives. Now we will learn about measuring the performance against the goals. So planning forces organizations to establish goals for the operations and to define the related performance measures. Short-term goals are structured to lead to the accomplishment of the long-term goals. Okay, so there are certain short-term measures. Okay, and these short-term measures lead to the or the short-term goals. This will lead to the accomplishment of the overall long-term goals. Yeah, or the long-term objective. Sorry. Yeah. Now goals can include financial, customer, business process, human resource goals consistent with the critical success factors. The goals can be anything, right? For a person or for the finance department, it would be a financial goal. For your operational manager, it will be an operational goal. For your HR manager, it would be your HR goal. What is an HR goal, guys? I have to hire so many people in a particular year, or I have to hire X amount of senior employees in the organization, or I will have to maintain a certain diversity within my employee pool. These are all part of your HR goals. Similarly, you have financial goals. Similarly, you have operational goals. Yeah. So all these goals will eventually be worked out to to kind of be aligned with your short-term objectives within your organization. Are we clear till here, guys? There are goals, mind you. You have to understand what these goals are, and each person the goals are actually different, or each department the goals are actually different. Yeah. Performance measure serves as a quantifiable measure of assessing the goal achievement. How much percentage of the goal have you achieved? Have you achieved more? Have you achieved less? Are you in line? Okay, all these are done through performance evaluation process. Okay, so Just underline this basically. Your performance measure serves as a quantifiable means of assessing your goal performance or your goal achievement. Okay. Also, just underline the line above that your goals may include your financial goals, your customer goals, your business process goals, or your human resource goals. These are consistent with the critical success factors. Yeah. Now, let's read through. So, budgets are based upon the objectives and goals agreed on by the management and the staff. Okay. What is important? It has to be agreed. It has to be agreed between your management and your staff. So, your management should say that you have to only manufacture 10 chapatis. Okay. But your staff would say that no, no, more chapatis, more is the incentive. No, it has to be agreed. Okay. So it will all be looked at from both the sides. How much the management wants to do and how much should the staff wants to do. Yeah. So your budgets are based upon goals and objectives which are agreed by. It has to be agreed on by the management and the staff. As actual performance occurs through the period, comparisons are made to the budget, right? You are comparing the performance to the budget. Okay. Now, standards are per unit budgets that functions are expected outcomes. Okay. So when you say standard, what is the meaning of standard? You are saying one chapati to cook how much effort it will take. That is called as a standard. Your cook is mentally making the mathematics in his or her head. I have to cook 4 chapatis, 30 days a week. So 30 into 4, 120. 120 chapatis I have to cook in a month. One chapati takes on an average so much of time. So 120 chapatis into so much of time. This much is my time consumption. What is my rate per hour? Rate per hour is this. And that is how you will arrive at a monthly number. Okay. So what is the cook all doing over here? It is standardizing the cost of making one unit of your product. Similarly, your manufacturing manager has to standardize the manufacture, the production of one unit of your home appliance or whatever the product your company is actually manufacturing. It has to standardize one unit and it has to tell that okay, this much is my standard of manufacturing. Okay, it could be like okay, I would need a standard labor hours, I would need a standard material, I would need a some amount of standard support costs. Your manager is standardizing everything, and based upon that, it would come to a standard cost of manufacturing one unit. That is your standard. You will be comparing or evaluating your actuals against that standard. So let's say your manager comes up and tells you that for making one, so let's suppose you are an organization that manufactures mixie. Okay. For so the important component of the mixie is a motor. So you tell the manager that you tell me what is the standard cost for manufacturing one motor. So your manager will tell that I need some copper wires of so much quantity. I need the metal or the metal shaft for so much of quantity. I need 5 hours. I need 5 labor hours for making, let's say, one motor. Okay. These are all my standard labor hours. How will you measure the manager? You will say that, okay, you said 5 labor hours. That was the standard time. You have made, let's say, 3 motors. So 3 times 5. 15 hours, you should get paid. But how much have you paid your laborer? Your laborer took 17 hours. So 2 hours extra he or she took. So for 2 hours extra, you have paid more labor cost. So you have underperformed because you have overconsumed the resources. You have overshot the standard time by 2 hours, and you should be penalized for it. Okay. Are you guys clear with the concept of a standard cost? A standard cost is always a per unit cost. Okay. It is always on a per unit basis. Just just mark this. This is a very important point. Your standard are per unit budgets that function as expected outcomes derived in the budgeting process. Your standards are per unit cost. Yeah. Now the extent by which a company is achieving its objectives and goals is illustrated through this comparison. Actual performance that falls short of budgeted expectations may lead to unmet goals and objectives. If your actual performance falls short, it means that you have not met your objectives. Okay. Now, I hope it is very clear. When I'm saying that your actual performance falls short, I am not talking about lesser performance. I'm also talking about over performance also. It has not met the objectives. It will fall short. Okay. So actual performance that falls short of the budget expectations may lead to unmet goals and objectives. You have not met your goal and your objectives per se. And accordingly, your managers will need to be penalized or some corrective action needs to be taken. Yeah. Now let's look through the illustration. The RLT division is investing in a new production facility that is expected to grow overall comparison, sorry, or to grow overall company revenues by 3% in the coming year based on budgeted financial data for the project. The planned return on investment ROI, okay, is 13%, and the planned gross profit percentage is 16%. These percentages represent the objectives that serve as a baseline of the budget. So your objective is to meet these particular percentages. What are the percentages? You talk about a revenue growth of 3%. Okay, that's the first objective. What is the second objective? You talk about an ROI of 13%. And what is the third objective? Your third objective is your profit percentage of 16%. These are all your objectives. Yeah, these are your objectives towards which a budget is being made basically. Yeah. At the end of the year, actual results show an ROI of 16%. Okay. And a gross profit percentage of 18%. Okay. Now, actual results have exceeded budget for both the measures, which is a good indication that the company has performed well. Right? See, when a company makes excess profits, it is always good. Right? Because the expectation is that there is more profits. But when a company gets the same profit but with a excess cost, that is not a good indication. Here, with the same amount of see, what were the company's objectives? It had three objectives: revenue, it had a ROI, and it had a profit percentage. It has exceeded on two parameters, which is a good indicator, right? So you should be able to incentivize your managers because they have outperformed over here. It has led to an excess profit, right? Are you guys clear with me or not? Okay, good. I have to keep on shouting this because people are always in a very sleepy mood on a Sunday morning. I can understand that. Okay, let's go. Components, internal and external factors. Okay, we all learned about internal and external factors in depth yesterday. What are these guys? The internal factors are everything which is related to your organization, right? So everything which is within the organization, it is called as an internal factor. Okay. So your internal factor could be your organization's management,
Officers,
huh?
officers,
Officers. Okay. These are all your different internal factors which can determine your objectives within the organization. Okay. So, a success of a firm's strategic and operational plans, as well as its performance to the budget, may be affected by factors outside of firm's control. What are the factors which are outside of firm's control? These are external factors. Okay, external factors can be your economic conditions. They can be your regulatory issues. Okay, they could be the demographics of your particular region where your company operates. These are all your external factors. They can they can determine your strategic and your operational goal, and it can also determine how you are performing compared to your goals per se. Are you guys clear with this? Yeah. Now, external factors such as the state of the economy, competitors' action, yes, that is also an external factor. Changes in the labor markets play a significant role in the firm's ability to execute its budget and strategic plans. Economic and industry trend forecasts guide the development of the strategic plans and the budgets. And internal factors such as strong management, new product development, marketing efforts influence planning and the development of the budget. What is the meaning of this, guys? Can somebody explain? What is the meaning of this? Your external factors can determine how you are performing compared to your budgets. Are you overperforming? Are you underperforming? Just like your internal factors, your external factors can also determine how you are doing versus your overall budgets. Okay?
like the rivals or competitors.
Yes, your competitive rivals, the intensity at which they are kind of your competitor. These can all determine how you are performing against your plan. Yeah. So economic and industry trend forecasts guide the development of the strategic plan and the budgets. So let's say you are working in a let's say you are the purchase manager of let's say Tata Motors. Okay, so the management has told you that you have to manufacture, let's say, 5,000 EVs or electric vehicles in the coming month. Okay, but then you go back and you say, what is the industry forecast? The industry is forecasting a very lull period because the demand is very low. The demand is low because of some reasons. Okay, generally um, your automobile purchases happen during festivals and during year ends. But say suppose you are in the month of February or you are in the month of March, there are no festivals. I mean, there are small festivals here and there, but not the bigger festivals. So then you will not be able to make 5,000. So you will have to go back to your management and tell that this is a lull period. You cannot come with a 5,000 estimate that you saw during the last Diwali, right? Because your industry is forecasting a lower amount of the demand, so lower amount of sales. So you cannot get the same amount of sales per se. Yeah, good. So, what is the meaning of this? So where a firm operates, there will be an industry guidelines that will be determining how the firm operates, and how the industry operates will be determined by how the economy is operating. So the economic factors will affect the industry factors, and the industry factors will then affect the firm factors, and the firm factors will then determine what are the budgets and what are the goals that needs to be created for the purpose of achieving those objectives. So economy, industry, firm, and then individuals, they all come at one shot. Yeah, are you guys clear with this? Okay, so what did we learn till now? We learned about the role of the budget. We learned about the short term objectives. We understood what was measuring the performance against the goals. We understood what are the different kind of components, internal and the external factors. Yeah, and now we come to performance evaluation. We come to performance evaluation, how to evaluate the performance of a particular uh, uh, against a particular budget per se. Yeah. Now, performance evaluation is the process of determining the degree of success in accomplishing a task in terms of both efficiency and effectiveness. All employees are subjected to performance evaluation, which may be tied to a company's financial performance. The budget is the financial performance goal based upon the expectations developed internally by the company. Budgets are compared with the actual results and used for performance evaluation. Is this clear, guys? Your performance evaluation is a measurement of how successful you are in achieving the goals. So, if you achieve your goals, you have achieved your performance. You 100% achieved your performance. If you have if you have overachieved or if you have underachieved, it means that you have not met your goals per se. Yeah. So it is very important to understand how to measure these particular goals. Yeah. So this is a very important kind of the definition over here. Your performance evaluation is a process of determining the degree of success in accomplishing a task in both efficiency and effectiveness. How efficiently you have met your task, and how effectively you have done it. Efficiency and effectiveness are two things. Not meeting the task, not just doing the task is important, right? All employees are subjected to performance evaluation, which may be tied to the company's financial performance. Every employee, if you are if you're part of any kind of corporate team, you will be subjected to an employee performance, an EPR, or an employee performance review. It happens roughly once or twice in a year. Okay, in some companies it happens two times in a year. In some companies it happens once in a year. Once in a year, your manager will sit with you and determine whether you have appraisals that they call in an organization, right? So, and these are again tied back to the company's financial performance. So if an employee has met the objectives, but the company is not performing, then the employee will not get incentivized that much. Maybe they will get incentivized compared to their peers, but not compared to the overall, how they would have got incentivized if the company's performance would have been very high, right? Are you guys clear on this? The company's budgets are compared with the actual results and used for the performance evaluation. Your company also has a budget, company also has a goal, so company's performance is also measured against that budget and then evaluated, and then it is used for performance evaluation. Yeah. Controllable costs. What is the meaning of controllable costs, guys?
Internally controlled,
Huh?
which can be controlled internally.
Are internal, yes, but how will you measure the performance of controllable costs? Come back to your cook wala example. Okay, you tell your cook to cook food. The cook leaves the gas open and does all the chopping and all. It leads to an excess consumption of your gas, right? It would lead to an additional cost on your family's budget. So you will start measuring the cook's performance, okay, against these controllable costs. You will tell the cook, my gas is supposed to last for 1.5 months, but because you start the gas and then you are doing everything, okay, there's an excess consumption of gas, and because of which I have to pay an additional cost, which is not the right thing. So your managers are held accountable for all controllable costs. Controllable costs are identified in the budgets for strategic business units and evaluated in comparison to the standards. How will you measure? How will you measure?
Understand?
You will measure the standard. You will say, Array, for cooking 300 chapatis in a month, only half of my gas should be consumed. But the cook has consumed one full gas. So the standard is not the same. The cook is over consuming against the standard. They are not meeting the standard per se. Same way, for manufacturing, see, controllable costs are everything that can be controlled within the organization. Okay, mind you. So, one unit of a product, if you have to manufacture, you would know that I would need some X amount of your material, X amount of labor. That is the standard cost. Now, if your production manager or if your manufacturing manager is not able to manage these controllable costs, then it will be negatively evaluated against his performance, his or her performance. Are you guys clear? A manager is expected to manage the controllable cost. Controllable cost should not exceed. Yeah. Expenses of controllable costs include direct materials, direct labor, employee compensation, advertising, supplies, and travel. In a lot of organizations, you see that there are budgets being made for travel. Okay. But you will see that your organization will not approve this because the organization will say that you will not travel unless it is super important to travel, unless it is absolutely important for you to travel. We will not approve the travel for your team or for yourself or for somebody within your organization. We will not approve this. Why? Because the management is trying to control the controllable costs. So advertising, supplies, labor, direct materials, these are all controllable. You know what is the standard consumption for one unit of the product. You would not want to exceed that. Yeah, your manager's performance will determine upon how much control are these costs per se. Yeah. Again, just like the definition says, controllable costs are everything that can be controlled. Uncontrollable costs are everything that cannot be controlled per se. Yeah. So your uncontrollable costs are costs authorized at a different level in the organization and cannot be changed by the manager whose performance is evaluated. Examples of uncontrollable costs include rent, insurance, and depreciation. Array, if you manufacture, let's say 5 units less in a month, will the rent of the factory floor will that change? No, right? The rent will still be the same. So for the manager, rent is an uncontrollable cost. Can the manager influence rent? No, right? The manager cannot influence the rent. Can the manager influence depreciation? No. The manager cannot influence depreciation also. These are all uncontrollable costs. Okay, cost that cannot be controlled by an organization per se. Yeah. Let's read through the illustration 2. A manufacturing department manager has control over the materials and the supplies used in the department. So materials and supplies are controllable costs. But the manager has got no control over the fixed asset depreciation allocated to the department. That is an uncontrollable cost. From a performance evaluation perspective, the manager should be held accountable, or sorry, should not be held accountable for uncontrollable cost, even though depreciation must be included in the department's budget. You can only evaluate the manager based upon what he can control, right? What he cannot control, how you can actually determine that? Or how can you evaluate the person on that basis? Your manager is going to rebel against it. He or she will say that you are unjustifiably penalizing me for something that is not in my hands, right? So a manager is always evaluated on the basis of controllable cost basically, and not held accountable for uncontrollable costs. Yeah? Are you guys clear till here? Yeah. So what did we learn till now? We learned about operation and performance goals. We learned about the measuring against the goals. We learned about the different factors, internal and external factors. We learned about how performance is evaluated. Performance is evaluated based upon controllable costs. And then we looked at one example. What is a controllable cost and one is an uncontrollable cost. Yeah? Now, let's look at what are the characteristics of a successful budgeting process. Okay, I'll give you guys a minute to just read through. You have not got the book. You have not got the book. What about you? A successful budgeting process. Okay. A successful budgeting process are organized and they are efficient. Okay. So they are organized and efficient. They involve participants at all levels across the company. See, budgeting is not a one-way street. Huh? Everybody has got to be involved in that. When you say everybody, who everybody? Management has to be involved. Your employees have to be involved. They are all part of your budgeting process. Huh? Huh? Sorry. Top to bottom, yes. I mean, of course, all the relevant people have to be there. Okay. Then it is a two-way communication, guys. Okay, it's a two-way communication throughout the process. And everyone must work together to ensure that limited resources are efficiently allocated to the organization strategic and operational plans. Arey, resources are limited na in an organization. Your operational manager's time is very limited. Do you want him to focus on a lot of things? No, right? Your time is also limited na in a day. You have to do CMA class, you have to do Instagram reels, you have to watch TikTok, a lot of things, right? You have to allocate your time. See, time is a very limited resource. You have to allocate your time to all the important things, correct? Right? So they have to be efficiently allocated. Okay. Efficiently allocated meaning you have to allocate time to those activities that give you the most benefits. Okay. CMA class should be a little less. Instagram should be a little bit more. Okay. Why? Because your friends should see also, right? That that has got a large amount of an outreach, right? So CMA class less and Instagram more, correct? Array, it's not correct. Your exams are coming up, so focus more on your studies. Okay, efficient allocation of your time. Okay, resources are very limited within the organization, and it could be your labor, it could be your material, it could be your different things within the organization. They are all very limited. Okay. So, in an organization, management is responsible for setting the tone at the top. Hey, tone at the top, what is it, Baba? The tone at the top is, what is your tone at the top? The tone at the top is what my father used to do, at the beginning of the exam. Is like nobody should watch TV more than basically 1 hour a day. That is a tone at the top. That tone would then percolate down. It would then percolate to my mother. Then it would kind of percolate it to my brothers and sisters. Okay. Tone at the top. So the management decides what is the strategic goal. Okay. They come up with something called the tone letter. They send it to every employee saying that this is what we want to achieve during the oncoming basically budgeting period. Yeah? Which serves as a foundation for an ethical behavior throughout the organization and an implementation of a strong internal control system. Ethical behavior. Absolutely necessary. And my father used to say, Boss, you're not supposed to watch more than 1 hour TV in a day. You have to be ethical. Okay. Or you cannot just, silently come and basically switch on the TV and then they watch TV. No. Okay. So I try to also set a tone in my house. So I tell my daughter that you are supposed to be studying X amount of hours in a day. She says yes. But then she goes back to her room and then she opens up her mobile phone and then she's watching everything. Is that an ethical behavior? No. So I tried to explain this to her. She's still a long way from this. Okay, but the tone at the top comes right at the management, and then that determines what your ethical behavior in your organization is. Yeah? And then it forms a part of your control system. Then your performance evaluation system will also come into the picture. Yeah? So a participative and a collaborative culture rather than an authoritative and punitive culture leads to a more productive and a positive budgeting process. When you work with your employees will will feel more included. They would feel more inclusive in the overall success of the organization, and then they would decide, then it becomes more like it is your company. You have to do well. Okay, that's all a part of making it more participative. But if something comes from the top like an authoritative and a punitive kind of thing, that is not considered to be very healthy. Okay, it has to be participative in any organization, whether it's your home or whether it's your organization. It has to be participative, right? Successful budgets. What are the characteristics of the successful budget, guys? Okay, they are communicated throughout the organization. Are communication is necessary, na? Why is it necessary? You have to communicate to your people within the organization. Are what is the budget? How will your employee know what is your budget? So it has to be communicated in a clear way within your organization's channels. You have to send, regular updates to your budgets. You have to let your employees know that this much is my budget for the year, and this is how we are going to achieve this budget. It has to be communicated properly. Yeah. Next, it has to be an established process for resource allocation. Limited funds available require that management be methodical and careful where the budget funds are allocated. They have to be methodical. It doesn't mean that tomorrow any Tom, Dick, and Harry comes up and says that I want, let's say, 50,000 rupees for doing something. You will give that money. No. Financial resources are limited within an organization. You cannot just give it to anybody and everybody within the organization. They have to be given to certain people, and there has to be a certain method of doing it. So, any kind of requests need to be evaluated against the budget. Do we have the budget or not? What value is this expense going to drive? Is it going to be a positive value or a negative value? All that has got to be decided within an organization. Yeah. Personal participation and ownership. Involvement of the individuals who are held accountable by the budget creates an atmosphere of personal ownership. The budget becomes a tool to achieve success than a measurement of a performance imposed by the top management. When personally employees participate, it becomes like an achievement of a success. Okay. So if you tell your employees that, look, we have to, you know, increase revenues by 10% in this quarter. Okay. Let the employees come back and tell you that, okay, how much do you think we can increase our revenue this year? Some employees will become very much ambitious. They'll say, sir, we will be able to achieve 10 to 15% growth. Some will come back and say, sir, we'll be able to achieve around 7 to 8% growth. Make it a participative process. Let them come and only tell you how much they can achieve more. Once you do that, once they start achieving that, it becomes a success, that you have achieved success. Right? So, what do we do nowadays? New age parents, we ask our kids, Are Baba, how much you will get in your exams? Please tell me. so that I can set my expectations. You'll pass now. You'll pass now. Yes, I'll pass. That is setting up the expectation. And yes, I do the same thing with my daughter. Very simple. We have very, you know, like a person to person kind of a talk. Oh, by the way, she's actually 12 years old. Okay. She's not. So we have a person to person talk. How much will you achieve in your examinations? You give me a number. Okay. Subject wise, you tell me how much you are going to achieve. And if you are able to achieve that, we celebrate that success. Okay, we have achieved that. That's a milestone. It's a participative process. You have to be participative in your organization. But if you are if you're not participative, if you impose certain things on, no, you have to get above 90%, then it becomes a performance against, then it becomes an evaluation of performance. Then, you know, then nobody wants to kind of success or want to celebrate success. I- If she can only achieve, let's say, 60% or 65% or 70%. But if I set my expectations at 90% or 95%, if she's unable to meet that, in a lot of cases, that will be treated as she has not met the goals and she should be penalized. But no, in a participative culture, that would lead to a celebration of success. But in an imposing structure, it will lead to penalizing the particular person. Right? So a successful budgeting is always participative in nature. Yeah? That's the first and most important thing. This is probably the most important of all the points. It's a personal participation. Yeah. Employee perception that the budget is a tool to assist in meeting the performance objective instead of placing blame makes the budget more effective. If you make your if you make your employees believe that budgeting is a way to meet their personal objectives also, yeah, it it is a way through which they can meet their performance objectives. Okay, then they will take it in a very positive way rather than they would think of it like a blame game. The management is trying to blame me for their wrong decisions. A lot of times we say that I have not got bonus this year. Why? I have performed, I have been a star performer, but my management did not perform, and hence I have not got a bonus. Okay, why? Because what has happened is that your management has put it like a blame game. The management will say that yes, we were not able to perform because of ABC reasons. They are blaming it on something else, right? So an employee perception has to be built within the organization. Okay. Next is a goal orientation. Your top manager should use the budget to properly and positively communicate goals. Your budgets have to be oriented to your goals. This is what we have been learning all these while, right? Your budgets have got to be oriented to your goals. Okay, accuracy of information. What is it? Your data has to be accurate for your budgets. You cannot work on your budgets with an obsolete data going back in time. Okay, your data has to be the most updated data, na? Without that data, how will you be able to figure out? Okay, so it has to be complete, it has to be logical, it has to be accurately computed data. Okay. Last is you're consistent with the time frame and the process appropriate for the budget type deployed. Now there are different types of budget methodologies. We will we will go through those budget methodologies shortly, but each budget is made for a specific time. There is a master budget. There is something like a rolling budget. There is a short-term budget, long-term budget. These are all the different budgeting methodologies. So budgeting is always done with respect to time. Yeah. So we will learn about the different appropriate process within the budget. Yeah. So what are the different characteristics of an efficient budget, guys? One, it has to be communicated. There has to be a process through which your budget can be allocated out. Third is your personal participation. Your employees should participate personally. Employee perception has to be changed. They should look at it positively and not look at it like a blame game happening. It has to be goal oriented, right? And it has to be done with the accurate data. And last, there are different budgeting methodologies, and, and that is to be applied across the different time frames. That has to be very, very important. Yeah. Let's look at each one of these. Okay, so we have learned about these different kind of the positive things in a successful budget. Let's look at it a bit more deeply. Okay, your communication. Your budgets are used to communicate and coordinate activities among the organization units, including the performance standards and expectations. Budgets describe operational requirements of each division and thereby communicate expectations from one unit to another. Okay. Budgets determine how much a unit can spend. They are operationally setting the goals for a particular unit and what is the expectation of one unit from the other unit person. Yeah, that is called as a budgeting requirement. So the whole communication is describes the operational requirement of each division. Yeah. Now, if now they are giving you an example over here of a sales budget. How does a sales budget looks like, guys? If sales budget are based on the generation of sales of a specified number of units of a product, then at least that much product should be available, no?